Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. An absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you
It's
today.
lovely to
Thank you
talk to you,
so
Sarah.
much for taking the
Thank you for
time.
coming.
I just loved every minute of this movie. But for people
When
who
did you
haven't,
see it?
last week on the
Okay,
big
in one of the
screen.
sort of private
Yes,
viewings.
exactly. For people who haven't seen it yet, though, what can they expect coming into this movie?
Golly, they're going to expect to see a film about a penguin, and they're going to see Steve Coogan. And so the reason people are going to go and see it is because Steve Coogan is one of the best-known actors in Britain, and he's terribly popular, and he is extremely talented. The range of things he's done is extraordinary. And if you put that on one side and then say all the people are going to be adore going to see a film about a penguin, that actually takes in an awful lot of people in the country. So there is lots and lots of footage of penguins. Almost all of the footage is real penguins. There are some penguin models, animatronic, and they are brilliant. I mean, honestly, if I had one here on my arm, it would be sitting here, moving its head and opening its beak and flapping its wings, and I would defy you to be able to tell it was a model. They're extraordinary. So there's lots of penguin, lots of Steve Coogan. I mean, he's on the screen all the time. It's based in a college, so there are lots of young 14, 15, 16-year-old boys who are fairly unruly, which I would never have tolerated. But the Tom Michell of the film doesn't know how to control them at all. And so you've got this wonderful dynamic between the incredibly good kid actors, or were they acting at all, or were they just being natural kids? And the brilliance of the penguin, the adage is, if you're an actor, don't go with children and animals. And there's Steve Coogan, planting himself in the middle of these wonderful youngsters with all of life before them, and the magnetism with this penguin, and the change of character, the arc of his journey. It is different from mine. Well, of course it is, but it makes it a good film. And because the story of the penguin is almost exactly as I've written it in the book, I'm only the penguin's sidekick. I mean, I'm only involved because of the penguin. If it weren't for, if it had been a cormorant that I picked up in Cornwall, they would have been the slightest bit interesting. It's because it's a penguin. My role is simply that of chronicler. I'm not the slightest bit interesting. The star of the show is Penguin.
It's one of these stories that's almost stranger than fiction.
I
Quite
think,
hard to believe, that it's
Peter,
true.
who was talking about this, is saying that there are films being made because people want to make money out of films. This is sitting around saying, well, what are we going to do next? A set of circumstances, the fact that you've got this hideous degradation, thousands of penguins being killed by an oil slick, which is hideous and makes one reflect on what we are doing to this planet. And I hope people might reflect on that. Although it's not I'm not David Attenborough, and if he can't do it, then it really isn't up to me. So you've got that, and then you've got the dynamic between the penguins and the children. And the extraordinary thing about this penguin is how he latched on to me, and so I could be out on a terrace. The terrace was, a bit large in this room, but not much. The terrace in the film is actually much smaller than the space he had. It was about 10 meters square. The kids would go out and talk to him, and the housekeeper would go out and talk to him. But when I went out there, the penguin would stop doing whatever he was doing with whoever he was doing, and he would come over and stand by me. And in many ways, I'd go out in the evening when the kids were off at prep or eating a meal or something, and I'd go out and talk to the penguin about what's been going on in the day, and I'd be having a sundowner, and the penguin would come and lie down, and he'd rest his head on my feet, almost as though he were a dog. And to some extent, I think our relationship was rather like a dog and a person. But if you'd asked Juan Salvador, he wouldn't have identified himself as a dog. It was Muggins.
And what I love about the film is, there is this backdrop of the political unrest in Argentina. There's a through line of tragedy that's, touched the protagonist's life. But there's something ultimately incredibly uplifting about the movie. And I think that's a lot to do
And
as
I
well
think you'll
about
find when you
Steve
read the book,
Coogan's.
you'll find that the ending is, go on, I'm going to say it. It's the best animal story you will ever read because the full cycle. I found an ending to the book, which wasn't the ending that Penguin first said they wanted to publish when they found the book. And I went out to Argentina for all sorts of different reasons. And I suddenly discovered something, and I met a new penguin. And so the book ends, but it ends on an amazingly uplifting note. It might even be better than the film.
But what do you think it is about Steve Coogan's portrayal as well? Because he does manage to move just
Well,
completely
I mean,
seamlessly from drama to humour, you know.
as Peter was saying, Tom was a very. I was 22 or 23 or something. A callow youth from the gentle downs of North Downs of Sussex, as naive as they came. Yes, I mean, I knew the fate of farm animals and foxes, um, but I was horrified, genuinely horrified, by this environmental damage. And seeing this penguin was still alive, I thought it was my responsibility as a member of this species to do something for it. And Peter is kind enough to say that actually, I'm not a very interesting character to make a film about. What you want is, some miserable, grumpy old man who. It's a Scrooge, it's a Christmas Carol, isn't it? He has this revelation, and whether it's spirits that come and visit you at night and drag you across London, or it's a penguin, actually you think is a bloody nuisance in the first place, but actually you then fall in love with. It's a much more interesting story that they've come up with in the time that's available. No, it's going to take you 10 hours to read the book. It's going to take you less than 2 hours to watch the film. So there've got to be big differences.
Amazing. Well, I think I'm out of time, but thank you so much for sharing all that.
Lovely to see
And
you.
huge congrats on having your story made into a movie.